Confidence, a parent's number one wish for their teenagers. A ridiculously hard goal in our current world. Be daggy, keep talking, take the time. Hello, gorgeous. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
That's good. Everyone, we have gorgeous Mia Patterson here. And yes, we are talking about confidence with teenagers, and this little spiel we've got here, a parent's number one wish for their teenagers. We just spoke a couple of minutes ago and came up with a title, which worked out really well.
Yeah.
Yes. So first of all, everyone, gorgeous Mia has got an educational background. So tell us your world. How does it work?
My world is all about education from the day that I started uni. I did uni didn't want to be a teacher, wanted to be an actress.
Oh, really?
Wasn't allowed to do drama, so went into teaching and loved it from day dot, and still walk in every day and love my job. Love the fact that when I turn up, I've got all these faces really pleased to see me every day. So where do you go to a workplace like that, really?
It must be like a whole community.
It is
a school.
Yeah, it is. It's a family that becomes a community. It's like a village.
Really?
And I've taught in 2 teacher schools, and I've taught in big schools that have, I don't know how many teachers, 50, 60, 70. So,
really?
Yeah, it is a wonderful place to work and a great job. I always say best job in the world. Wonderful.
So you're a deputy at your school?
Yes, I sort of fell into that role, didn't want it, but it just turned out that there was...
What do you mean didn't want it?
We lost all our leadership team in one fell swoop, so I went into our principal, who was a lovely young guy, and said, look, I've taught 5-year-olds to 18-year-olds. If you want a hand just to bridge yourself till you get what you need. He said, please apply. I said, no, I don't want it. I didn't want the responsibility
You didn't want
of
it?
No.
You didn't want it, yeah.
And I didn't want to leave the kids. I want to deal with children.
Yeah.
So in the end, he came down to my room, knocked on my door, and at the time had the brand Head of Girls, so I used to do all stuff with a lot of girls, and I loved it, so I wanted to stay there. But he knocked on my door and said, CV's closed today, where's yours? And I went, no. Anyway, long story short, went through the interview. When he asked me what I had to offer, when they asked me and said, what have you got to offer this job? I said, absolutely nothing. And my husband was so cranky. I said, I don't have training or experience in leadership.
Mia, that is so you.
Isn't it funny?
You're so, we often talk about this, hey, I'm like, hello, you don't know yourself, you don't know what you've got to bring, you're extraordinary. Oh. And you're like, I don't know what you're talking about. No, can you stop? No. You're very understated.
Well, at the time, I didn't like the idea of a deputy. I thought it was posh, and I thought I had to wear heels and suits, and I don't do that. So it turns out I actually really love it. I get to talk to 5-year-olds, and I get to talk to 17-year-olds on a daily basis and do it my way, and I love that. I love, love, love working with young people.
And when you say do it your way, what do you mean?
Sit on the grass with them, or sit on the grass with my preppies, and who look at me, and when I said, go and put this in your port, he just looked at me and said, that's weird. I said, oh, sorry, your bag.
And he's like, you're weird.
You're weird.
You're weird.
And then before he left, he goes, you've got big teeth. I said, I have got big teeth. You are very clever.
Good job.
And then I talked to 17-year-olds who I see that their little faces have dropped, and everyone's little to me. I have a 6'4", 32-year-old, and I call him my little boy. But these little ones who I'll sidle up and go, are you okay? Had this today. Yeah, I'm fine. But I'm not. I'm completely broken. So I sort of shuffle them around the corner, and we sit on a bench, and I go, what's going on?
Are you aware that in the world of psychology, we divide people into groups who are power-orientated and those who are affiliation-orientated?
No, I've never heard that.
Yeah, so power-orientated people who just love being leadership on top, authority, status-orientated. They just like being like the captains on top, and it's very ego-based. It's kind of winning. And then affiliation orientated are the people who are about getting alongside. They're
Yep.
about your strengths, my strengths, let's row together.
Yep.
People who are affiliation orientated don't aspire to leadership because they much more prefer to be on the ground,
Yep.
getting in, doing the work that they've signed up for.
Mm-hmm.
And typically people who are affiliation orientated don't go to leadership unless they're just like grabbed, slapped, put there.
Yeah, that's me.
Exactly, this is what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is why you're so extraordinary in your role.
Oh,
Because it's not about your ego, it's not about getting them across from your big oak desk.
no.
It's
no,
about sitting alongside, bringing down the barriers and getting them comfortable, getting them talking and relating to the person, which amongst a million things I adore about you, that's a big one.
Well, it's interesting because in my role, I do that with the children, but what has added an extra layer is that I'm dealing with staff who are just big kids. Really, like I can go up to a teacher of physics or biology or, you know, and they can be very, you can expect them to be a certain way and I go, you okay today? And they just go,
Actually,
I'm going to get your class covered, come and have a chat.
Yeah.
So it's, and, you know, I have been accused of, not accused, they say, oh, you know, the counsellor, and I'm not a counsellor, I'm just an ear. That's who I am, and I think...
you care, you
Well,
support, you understand,
but
you want to understand.
Yes, I do, but fundamentally it helps organisations run. And I had a beautiful man who had an organisation that had 3 depots over Queensland.
Deputies, yep.
No, they weren't. It was a completely different organisation.
Oh,
it was
depots.
engineering firm. Yes.
Okay, I'm glad to clarify, yep.
Yeah, and I
Got it.
said, so there's one at Gympie, one in Toowoomba. These are all in Queensland.
Right.
But I said to him, and he was talking about this one that ran really, really well. And I said, why does it run really, what's the difference? He said, oh, it's just outperforming both the others.
Yep.
I said, so why? And he said, the boss there checks in on people all the time. So everyone, and I said, so everyone feels like they're valuable to the organisation and it is booming. Whereas the other 2 that do exactly the same thing don't have that. And I thought, right, okay, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing because I believe that if you feel valued and people listen to you and they have time for you, the organisation will run much better, whether it's a school or whatever it is.
It makes so much sense. So on 2 layers, one, fundamentally, there's the genuine care for the individual. It's not put on, it's genuine.
No, it has to be.
And secondly, it's just smart because it's people that create systems and organisations, and when those people feel supported and understood, then they're going to have that point of connection and they're going to really bring their best, aren't they? Yeah, it's smart.
And every leadership book, and I'm a voracious reader, everything I've ever read in leadership, which is an enormous amount, because I thought I need to learn how to be a deputy, it all says the same thing. Know your people, look after them, and that's the same as if you're a 5-year-old and you're noticed. You need to be seen and heard. So I often use with some of the students, there's a Zulu term, I don't pronounce it correctly, I'm sorry about this, but it's called Salbona, something like that.
Good on you for giving it a go. I wouldn't be that brave.
But the translation is, that's their greeting, so they don't say hello, they say Salbona, which is I see you. And so I'll say to my students, Salbona, we talk about Salbona, which is I see you, and sometimes when I sit with a student, whether they be young or old or a teacher, I say to them, I see you and I'm listening.
Wow.
Which sounds really naff.
What does naff mean?
Sort of
Daggy,
dopey.
daggy.
Like, why would you say that? I'm sitting here, of course you're listening, but it is a dying art. Listening is, I always say to the children, you listen with your ears, you hear with your heart. So take it on and hear it when someone is actually taking a big step.
We have to do another podcast on that. Watch out.
So much stuff in my brain. So many years of stuff.
I love it. So let's talk about kids. Now tell me about, the topic was a parent's confidence,
yes.
A parent's number one wish for their teenagers. Tell me about this.
So very quickly, I'll skim through this. We have just recently surveyed our college, our parents, our students, and our teachers, our staff, about the top things that we want to produce in our beautiful little human when they leave our college. What are the things they want to take away with them?
Yeah.
And so when we surveyed them all, we then brought it all together and compared. So what the parents, a large group of parents that replied, they're really interested in this stuff. They want confidence. That's what they want.
The child to feel confident.
To feel confidence.
Absolutely.
It's way beyond, empathetic, curious, all the ones that we came
Academic.
Academic.
Yep.
Yeah, they are way beyond. It's way like the data is higher in that area. So it has become the foundation for all the other characteristics and qualities that you want to have as a young person going out into the world. It's not just be confident. It's not just having self-esteem or having self-confidence. They're both very different. It's being confident to have compassion and empathy for someone. And in order to do that, you have to be confident. Confident to speak up when things are unjust. That's an obvious one. But some of the others, the curiosity, you need confidence. Not curiosity, creativity was another one. You need to be confident to be creative. So
You need to back yourself.
yeah, and it has become the foundation of what we are looking at trying to encourage in our young people. And it is so hard in this world with all the reading I've been doing recently, all in and around students and focusing and...
let's break that down. What are you reading? What are you seeing is so difficult in our current world?
Some of the greatest, the people that I am really admiring at the moment, Hugh van Cuylenberg, who did the Resilience Project. He was a teacher who put together this Resilience Project. He talks about a man called Johan Hari, who is he's just a journalist, I think, but he has gone to every country in the world that he can find that has the top researcher in the area. So he'll go to Denmark to visit someone who's talking about concentration span, or he'll go to Iceland to get the top people from all around the world. And he's pulled it all together and saying, why are our young people not able to focus? Why are we as adults in a workplace, why do we have a 3-minute attention span?
So this is about focus, not confidence.
It's focus. Yes, it is focus. But in order to become confident, you actually have to be able to listen to wisdom of others. Even the way you were speaking about me, and I'm going, students today, kids today, they find that really hard. They find the art of conversation really, really difficult.
Yeah.
They practice conversations they're going to have even with ordering a pizza. And when I quiz them on that, the confidence to have a phone call, to make a phone call, they don't. And I said, what are you talking about? So when you order a pizza, you write it down. And they said, don't you? I said, well, I write down meat lovers, ham and pineapple or whatever. But what do you write down? They write down, hi, I'm Sam.
Verbatim
What they're going to say. And I was gobsmacked. These were 16-year-olds. And I said, why? And they said, we wouldn't be able to do it if we didn't have it all written in front of us.
Feel confident.
No.
And what did this fellow who went around the world and looked at concentration find?
He found that the powers that are taking our concentration and our focus is so far beyond our capacity to channel that ourselves. So when we say, children are on screens all the time, that was a big one.
So he found that people are on screens too.
Yeah, way too much.
Yeah.
But it's not the children's fault. It's not the parents' fault. It's a worldwide issue and we need to attack it that way. However, there are a lot of things that you can do on an individual basis.
That's really interesting because I actually have been very vocal about this, that it's not the child's fault because a child will be in the candy store and want as much candy as they can. It's the parent's responsibility to have boundaries on technology and to be the bad guy and say just because you want it and because your peers do it, it's not a good idea.
Yes.
You need to have a very staggered approach to your access to technology so that you're in the real world.
Yeah.
You don't miss out on your childhood.
Yes, absolutely.
So I actually pin it to the parents straight between the eyes.
It is, very much, but the way this fellow looks at it, and he says these mega giants that have hundreds of people trained and are paid trillions of dollars a year, and I'm not exaggerating, trillions was the word he used, are fighting a battle against your child's attention.
Oh, there's manipulation with regard to marketing.
Yeah. And all of that is too big for parents.
But I totally disagree. I totally disagree. If you say to your child, you're allowed on this technology for an hour, 2 hours, that's the ability that the child has to access that manipulative material that is absolutely addictive, that's going to get them in. And I understand the powers of B are very profound in their ability to manipulate a child to be conditioned to be on that technology, 100%. But it's the parent's job to be profoundly unpopular and say, no, sorry, you can't live on technology.
Totally agree. We probably agree. But the thing is, the parents are also on it.
Yeah, you're right.
And it is so overwhelming. But, I had a phone call a few weeks ago where I called a parent of a child in our primary school and said, I need you to go cold turkey with screens.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. No TV, no nothing. And the comment is always back, they don't have very much. I said, I'm saying zero. This is at a crucial point. And we know what happens lately. I don't know whether I'm meant to mention that. But this wonderful young man who took his own life, and Minecraft was one of the things that was brought in very recent. This is not in this is in Queensland, but not in Toowoomba. So.
Okay. So somebody in Queensland had committed suicide to do with
a young
Minecraft.
person. Well, it was. I'm sorry, I haven't got all the details, but what they were saying was governments need to start implementing and putting in some sort of restrictions on these things. So yes, parents do, and the amount of times that I want to say, you're the parent, you have the power.
The government doesn't regulate technology.
No, but it is.
That's crazy.
It is.
That is a controlled state.
Yes, it is. But it's. Oh, I could talk for hours on it, so I won't.
I think it comes down to candy. I really do.
It is candy. Yes.
A kid's not going to regulate candy. A parent must regulate candy.
But
I understand if the parents living in the candy world themselves, they're not going to have the baseline.
That's right. So I know this is off concentration, but the concentration, get it right. The confidence comes from conversation. The conversations that they have each and every day with their parents, with their peers, with their teachers. And if they're not interacting in conversation, which is the art of conversation is dying, is my theory, then they're not actually getting their cups filled by people who love and they respect, who love them and that they respect. So I could tell you 100,000 plus stories of where I have said something to a child. I said to a child yesterday, a student, a teenager, you are an amazing sponge. And she just went, and went to walk. I went, stop, come back. Because I could see a moment where I needed to give her confidence. I knew that she was in I knew her family situation. I know that she sees herself as the underdog in the family.
Yeah.
And she needs more confidence. And I said, no, stop. Come here and I want to tell you what I see in you. What I see in you is a sponge who everything that I have talked to you about in our class, you have taken on board and you've used. And you are adapting that so well. And I'm telling you, I don't care whether you get a score the same as all your siblings and you think you're less than them. But I'm telling you, in life, that is going to actually get you places.
And she squirmed with this feedback?
Well, she started to squirm because they don't know what to do.
A bit like when I give you feedback, you squirm as well.
Sort of, yes.
Yeah.
But I could see her stop squirming the longer I made her focus on what I was saying because they just want to discard it and walk away.
Yeah.
But the more I said, no, stop and listen. Let's sit. We were I actually teach dance, so we're in the dance room and I sat on the floor. 108, and I still teach dance. And I pulled her back into the dance floor and said, we're going to sit down and I want you to
gorgeous woman
listen.
Who's not 108, everyone please.
But by the end, she got a bit teary.
Yeah.
And I could see that she was missing her break, morning tea, which is a big sacrifice to talk to a teacher. And I could see that it had gone in, and I said, I never want you to forget this conversation, because you have a skill that is so rare. You take information, you apply it, and you think before you apply it. So that little shred of conversation, a lot of students will just walk away and go, oh yeah. But if you take the time, that's why time is so important. That's why talking, when they sort of brush you away and you go, no, this is actually really important. I want you to come back and we're going to have a chat now. And when they start to squiggle and squirm, you go, I need to tell something about you that I see in you that is really, really, really good. And I want you to remember it. And by the end, they're teary or they're crying. I've had students after they've left, where honestly it was like Alice in Wonderland when she grows really big and floods the room with tears. It is soaking wet, their skirts and things, because the tears are coming like big buckets. Not because they're sad, but because no one has ever taken the time to sit and say to them. And I say to them, I'm an old girl. I've been around the traps for a very long time. I've seen hundreds, thousands of children, thousands of students, and I'm the worst liar on the planet. So I will not lie to you. I couldn't be bothered to tell you something is not true.
Yeah.
You need to listen, because I know what I'm saying. And they all chuckle and laugh and we smile.
But that's the words you said earlier. Be daggy, keep talking, take the time.
Yeah. I go in, I sit on the floor, cross my legs, my knees click, and I get comfortable and they laugh at me, and that's being daggy. You know, should a deputy principal, I know what a deputy principal should look like. I know, I know what they should be like, and it's not like me.
Well, every time you come in, I say, where did you buy that top? You wear the funkiest clothes, you're the grooviest girl.
But I think being daggy is just going, let's be authentic. Let's not put on anything that's not...
Park the ego. Let's just be a bit grounded. Absolutely. Let's be a bit real.
Yes. And in our world, it's so hard. And I know I mentioned to you a parent night the other night, and that I was introducing, and my heart was to get across to them. I said to them, chat to your children. Sit and take the time to sit and chat. I know life's busy, but it's where you're going to actually see where they're at. And we all know that teenagers, especially boys, I had boys, a couple of boys, and I know you've got some boys. It's hard. It's hard going, and that's why the village is so important. Because if you think everybody else has got it together and everybody else's kids are confident, because look at their Facebook posts, look at their Instagram posts, it's not that way at all. We need to come out of our houses, have a chat about each other's kids and go, do you find this hard? Yes, I do. Be the village for that child.
Do you know what I find with our munchkins, as you mentioned, we've got boys, we've got 5 boys, that it's about creating the one-on-one time.
Yes.
So for me, I like to go and have coffee with them, driving with them, just incidental things that you can do with them. Yeah. One-on-one time. That's what I really like. So important. And I'm going to chip you now. Go.
We have a wonderful wellness program at our school, and there's lots of great stuff out there for wellness. And I used to say things like that, and it's great. And it is demographically in sometimes in culture where you've got people, and we're all busy. Yes, we create the one-on-one time, but you also deal with people who are working 2 jobs to put their kids in our school. Who are new Australians, who are English is not their first language, who are in violent situations where there's domestic violence.
Sure.
There is a lot of tough stuff out there. So having one-on-one time is really, really important, and I would give it as advice. To the families that go, oh, how on earth can I do that? I work all day, all night, and I sleep all day. I don't see my kids. Some of the children that I have in my office in floods of tears, little and big, I just look at them and go, and I actually said to one just recently, this is going to be a tough run and you're just going to have to get through it, and I'm going to be here for you.
Yeah.
But I can see that parents, it's hard for parents, and it's hard to know what to do. Some parents don't know what to do one-on-one. What do I do if I go one-on-one? That's a minefield, but I agree.
So they're uncomfortable with having those conversations.
Well, when children don't talk to you, so when you're 14-year-old, and I've had a 14-year-old...
can I just say, I really hear you. You need to have the bridge. You need to have the relationship, the trust, there needs to be a cultural norm within the family that you can talk about your stuff.
Yeah.
And there's going to be someone on the other end
Yeah.
who is going to have the interest, take the time, the skill set.
Mm-hmm.
You need to feel safe. It's actually not wise to open up to someone unless they've proven that they're a safe person, because you're giving them your deepest, darkest stuff.
Yes.
So you're absolutely right, and we need to create that safe
Somehow
space
we do.
first. Yeah.
Yes. I'll tell a story, and my sons will probably not be happy, but one of the things, so we all know that when teenagers get older, they start experimenting with all sorts of things, especially boys, with how high the bike will jump, with there's alcohol in the house, can I take a sip of that?
Yeah, they feel quite invincible for a period
they
there.
do.
Yeah.
And anyone who says that their boys or their kids don't get to go through that, I want to hear from them.
Yeah.
But one of my son's experiences with coming home, and he had been somewhere where he had consumed some alcohol. He was a little bit tipsy.
Yeah.
He actually they recorded something from my 50th, and one of the things that he said was, the great stuff was Mum, he remembered the night. I remember the night. and he was 18 or 19, so he was older. Mum didn't say a thing about it. She knew that it wasn't great. She waited. I had the time, like I could have chipped them then, and it might have been the right thing to do. Waited, took it up the next day, just said, how was the night, and he commented on that. So taking that time to do that was really important. And I wonder if that links to confidence, like all the things that they do when they're young. If you go, bam, straight on them. I mean, some things you do. Don't stick the knife in the socket, bam,
Yeah.
That's not cool. But breeding that confidence needs to be in a safe environment, so they can feel like I can experiment and I'm safe. And then I can build up my own set of experiences where that was good, that wasn't, and I can go and chat to mum or dad about it. Confidence is such an important. I mean, yourself. People who are confident don't need to be loud and shouting. They're very self-contained. They're together. They feel okay.
They're understated.
With themselves, yes, and they're understated, absolutely. And that's why when we go, what do we want to encourage in our children, what qualities, and parents all say confidence, I think, wow, that's a team effort. We've got to do this tag team. We've got to have this, be on the same page. We've got to have the same expectations, and we've got to talk a lot.
And when we look at resiliency, it's a pretty fascinating concept, isn't it? Overused, not understood, perhaps. But, resiliency, one aspect is outsourcing and saying, okay, I don't have what I need support-wise in one area, but I can find it elsewhere.
Yep. Yes.
And when you talk about a community coming together, I really see that. Mm-hmm. So, we might have an area where it's a bit sticky in one area, but we can find other people in other areas who can see us, who can celebrate us, who we can go to, who are role models, who we can talk to, have that support.
Speaking gold, yes.
Yeah, and that's just so profoundly important. And kids that can switch on to that and reach out, and the school environment can be quite profound. A lot of kids come and talk to me and say, oh, there was this teacher, and he or she got me. And so that's a massive factor with regard to protective factors for difficult times, and also building confidence. Yes,
and you mentioned the word resiliency. It's another one parents want and teachers want. We've used the word grit, which Angela Duckworth in her TED Talk really explains well if anyone's interested. But that grittiness to persevere, and if children are seeing their parents with this perfect facade. I have a class full of perfectionists at the moment who are 13, 14, 15. I'm going to give it that broad brushstroke age, who don't accept anything less than an A. And why bother if you're only going to get a B+? And I'm wondering where do you get that
disaster.
from? That is a disaster. And it's a little bit of an underlying disease in our youth at the moment. And that stems from the fact they're not confident enough in themselves to go, I'm okay, and if I pass, and I do, and that's what I said to this group of year 11s today I spoke to, your best is enough. It is enough. But to be confident enough to go, my best is enough, they can't, because they're, I don't know where they get the perception that everyone wants them to get an A, or they have to all be doctors, or I don't know where it comes from, and I don't know how we break it down, but it is really at dangerous proportions in our kids.
Do you know, apparently the word perfect in Latin means a good enough version of good.
Whoa.
It doesn't actually mean 100%. No. We have gone and taken that and run with it. And whereas perfect is 1 + 1 = 2, it's all sorts of things that are beyond our human capacity. And when you throw human capacity, we're not naturally designed to have any perfectionism whatsoever.
No. Well, there's a great term called GETMO. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
No, what?
Good enough to move on. So it's the 80-20. So you spend an hour getting to 80%, then you can spend another 5 hours getting the next 20%, or you can move on to the next task and go, I'm going to get, do that 80% good enough to move on.
See, that's not a goal for me. That's just my standard state.
Yeah, I know. It's perfectionism, and it's 80% or 100.
80.
Yeah,
80.
well, I think it's wise, and teaching our children.
I've never suffered from perfectionism.
Oh, see, I have at times.
Have you?
And that's why I totally understand. And the expectation that parents want you to get an A. And
oh, gosh.
Yeah. And I wasn't smart enough to get A's, so I was living in a world of never actually meeting any of that, just feeling dreadful.
Do you know, I often say to our kids that, when they're going through school, we want a good 60%.
Yeah, all right.
Give us a good 60%, which means pay attention, be involved, have a passion for learning, care.
Yes.
But don't kill yourself.
Yeah.
It's a marathon.
Yes.
Keep the stores. And then when we get to senior, give it a good 80%.
Yeah.
80%, that's it.
Yeah.
Because perfectionism is a gun to your head.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So, firstly, we don't function well with a gun to our head.
No.
Our point of panic makes us not function well. But secondly, it's not sustainable.
No.
So that's my view on perfectionism.
Yeah. It's not reachable or sustainable.
No.
So we're just battling in no man's land that you'll never win. So, yeah.
So I'm really fascinated by this concept of confidence. I think it's an incredibly multifaceted area.
Yes.
It's one of those things where there's just layers and layers that come together, and it is the whole community that comes together.
Yes.
And it's one of those things where I think you can just flesh out till the cows come home.
You could. And I was thinking just a minute ago when you were speaking and talking, and I thought, what would I summarise it? It's actually being okay with yourself. Now, how many people, young or old, are okay with themselves? It's hard to get to that spot.
Did you know that self-worth is a Western concept?
Yeah. I didn't know that, but that makes sense.
Yeah. So we have this whole concept of, what do we bring? What do we present? How are we perceived by other people?
How are we perceived?
Yeah. Social judgment. And that's our sense of confidence. Whereas in other cultures that are not Western, they basically just go, you are born, therefore you are of value, full stop.
Mm-hmm.
And I know. And if you think about a baby, when a baby's born, we say that baby is of worth.
Yes.
Why? Because they're a unique human being. Full stop, go home, we're done. That is self-worth.
That is beautiful, and that I have to tell you this. If we've got time, I have to tell you a great thing that baby. So I talk to the class about what happens when, and I always wear a twirly skirt when I do my intro to the class. So
fantastic. Do you twirl?
Yes, absolutely.
You're a dancer.
Well, I say what happens when we're young and we're little, and obviously girls there,
yeah,
and we twirl, and someone says you're a good dancer and you dance, and that's pretty dress, and we twirl, and then we go through and someone says that's pretty, and you go, yeah, no, and then you get to 8 or 9, and suddenly, and it's getting younger, suddenly our confidence just dissolves, and we start to look at, oh, I don't want to be different, or I don't want to be confident. So we're battling that too. And I was talking to one group of girls, and I'm going to reference her, Eliana. Not that she'll be listening, but my beautiful Eliana. I said to them, so I had done my twirl. I didn't talk about twirling. I just said, what happens between when we do this and then when we get to 14, someone says something and it's a pretty dress and we put our head down and we lose confidence. We've got nothing. And we had a big, long discussion about it. And Eliana said to me, I said, I'd love to know if there's a theory. She said, we lose our twirl. And I said, you know what? I love that more than anything I think I've ever heard. I'm going to steal that. Can I steal it? But I will always quote you, Eliana. We lose our twirl. We lose our 12, which is what happens when we go from this, rambunctious, beautiful, solid human that feels valuable and everyone tells them stuff and they go, I know, to I'm not valuable, to I can't stand out, to I'm anxious about what I'm wearing. One of the biggest anxiety days for students in high schools is free dress day?
Yes, definitely.
They're terrified. Terrified because
I came through during the grunge era, Nirvana, and I lived in op shops. I was fine.
Yeah.
These days, not true.
Oh, they're terrified on the day. They don't want to go. Some of them stay home because they've lost their 12. They've lost their confidence and they've lost their ability to say, I'm okay the way I am. So that's what I constantly do. That's my mandate, to go around telling every child that I meet that I can. My face, one, needs to light up when I see them as if they're my best buddy. And it can, because most of them I know and love. And then find something that I can breed a bit of confidence in them. Somehow that I can say, gee, I love the way you picked up that tuck shop basket and you are so strong. Or thank you for waiting for your buddy there because they were not feeling great and you stood back. I mean, they're just generalised examples, but it's a daily thing, daily.
Well, can I just say to our dear, dear listeners, and Mia doesn't know this, but I've just accumulated 5 more podcasts from today. I'm not exaggerating.
Well, I'm going to say to our listeners, this comes from nothing other than love and 35 years plus of experience of watching children, reading about them. There's no qualifications that I have on teaching about confidence, but I have observed so many years of this.
Life experience, exposure, what more is there, darling?
Yes.
So the 5 that are coming up, ladies and gentlemen, and you're finding out about them as we speak. The first one is going to be, ready?
Yes, maybe.
If you're up for it. Girls having people to talk to.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about that. I would love to do one on listening, a dying art.
Oh.
I would like to do a podcast on the art of conversation is dying. The 4th, perfectionism, a disease in our youth.
Oh, it is. It is.
And the 5th one, we lose our twirl. Oh. It's uncool to be confident.
Yes.
Are you up for it?
Do I have to
Not
commit
tonight.
here? I could talk about this till the cows come home.
Well, let's do it. Let's do it. We'll pace ourselves, hey?
Yeah, the thing is, it's important because our anxiety levels are going through the roof. The depression is going through the roof, which is the opposite of confidence, really. It's like, and how are we handling it?
This is an epidemic.
It is an epidemic.
So thank you, Mia Patterson. Thank you for everyone for
been a joy.
coming
Thank you.
along. To be continued.
Fantastic.
Many
Love
times.
Thank you, Kirsten.
Okay, everyone. Well, thank you for coming, everyone. So here we are on Signposts for Living with Dr. Kirsten Hunter, which I forgot to mention at the beginning. If you want to catch me on the website, we've got KirstenHunterAuthor.com, Facebook and Instagram, Kirsten Hunter Author, Twitter, Kirsten Hunter AU, and YouTube channel is Psych in Your Car. And here we are on Signposts for Living with Dr. Kirsten Hunter. Mia, thank you so much.
My pleasure. It's been lovely.
Absolutely. See you, Don.